Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on season 5 of My Hero Academia, episode 3, Clash. Class A versus Class B. So last episode was fantastic. There was so many plot elements set up. We had 3 main plot threads being set up in the last episode. We had Hawks being the double agent and the Hero Commission asking him to infiltrate the League of Villains. So we have that plot thread going. We have Keeping Up with the Todorokis. We have Endeavor's plot of not only balancing being the number one hero now, but also being a better father to his children who clearly have very conflicting and jaded views of him. So there's that plot thread. And then we have Deku and the Vestiges and learning about All for One and One for All and the kind of origins of this power that Deku now has. And so we have these 3 plot threads. And then to add in a 4th in the mix, now we have Class A and Class B. So I'm assuming this is going to be like a training exercise between these 2 classes. And it'll be kind of cool because we haven't really gotten to see a lot from Class B. Like we have a little bit of idea. Back in season 3, when we had the summer camp, we got a little bit. I remember Tetsu being the one, Tetsu and Kendo being the 2 that I remember from Class 1B in terms of their abilities, and also Monoma, which I love Monoma. I have a guilty pleasure liking of his character, as snotty as he is. So we know some of Class 1B, and we know some of their abilities, but there's other members of 1B that we haven't really gotten to see in action. So it'll be kind of cool to see. We've seen Class 1A all fight each other and show off their abilities, so it'll be neat to see Class 1B kind of thrown in the mix and what they do. And I love that their Dracula-like coach is kind of like their Aizawa equivalent, and he's like total opposite Aizawa. Like I love it. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what this season has in store. I've obviously read the manga, so I know what is coming, but I don't know like how we're gonna do it or like how they're gonna pace the episodes. Last episode was paced very well, and I really liked it. It was a great way to officially start the season because episode 1 was just kind of a recap. So I'm curious to see what we do in this episode, to see how far we get. As always with My Hero Academia and Haikyuu, since I've read the manga for those series, I am going to be reacting to this episode. We'll do a non-spoiler discussion, and then I'll go back and do like a little spoiler corner where we talk about the manga and talk about like what was left out, what's to come, things like that. So that way, if you're an anime only, you're not spoiled. So yeah, let's dive into this episode then. Episode 3 of season 5, and we're going to start that here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I love me some Shinso. Oh man, that was a good episode. I love the setup of there's always been this rivalry between Class 1A and Class 1B, and it's been it's not an unspoken rivalry, like it's there, but it's always been friendly, and I love that about it. I love the idea that Class 1B, because Class 1B, they think that they're like, oh, well, Class 1A gets all of the acclaim and all the accolades, and we're the second class. And Monoma is I realized why I like Monoma's character in looking back on this episode, and I think I like Monoma's character because I like Bakugo's character. And Monoma is kind of like Class 1B's Bakugo. Their personalities are not similar, and they hate each other. Like, well, at least Bakugo severely dislikes Monoma, and Monoma does not like Bakugo. But Monoma and Bakugo are both loud, they're both abrasive, and they are both the source of each of their respective classes' anxiety. Like, Class 1A is like, ignore Bakugo, he's just being, aggressive and crazy, and we can't help it. And Class 1B is like, please ignore Monoma because he won't shut up. It's like Monoma and Bakugo have the same dynamic for their teams and their classes, even though their personalities are very different. And I think that's why I like both of those characters, because they are similar in that regard. But yeah, Monoma is basically Class 1B's Bakugo. And I kind of love him for it. Like, he's just so unapologetically abrasive and annoying. And I love in that moment before Aizawa choked Monoma that Kendo was like getting ready to go up and pummel him, and Aizawa was like, nah, I got this. So Shinso, everybody that has liked Shinso since season 2, it's like I feel we're going to be getting our good dose of Shinso this season, which is very good because he wants to be in class 1B or 1A. He wants to be in the hero course, whichever one he gets into. Right now he's just in the normal course, and he's got the scarf that Aizawa wears, so I wonder, has he been training with Aizawa? Because really, in all honesty, Shinso's power, his ability to brainwash, is a very useful, good power, but there's not any combative strength behind it. You're really relying on the fact that person answers you. Like Shindo noted before, he was like, if you just ignore him and don't answer his question, then his power isn't going to work. And so Shinso has to be very smart about how he uses it. And I like that he has this mask now that is able to like decode and change his voice up so that he can try to like encourage people to talk and get brainwashed. But it's an easy power to evade if you know what to look for. So I'm assuming he has to compensate for that in other ways. And Shinso's personality is very much like Aizawa's. He's very laid back and calm and collected. And so it would make sense that Aizawa would be like, I'm going to be the one to train you. I just have my theory that he's like Present Mike and him's like adoptive kid. They're like, we're just gonna adopt you, Shinso. So I love the idea that he's fighting on both sides, and of course he gets on Monoma's team. Like Monoma's probably gonna drive him crazy, right? But the team that he's on with the heroes is a pretty good team. Like it's got Kaminari and Sooooo and Koda and Kirishima. So I love all of their winter outfits. I didn't get a chance to note in the reaction, but y'all notice, right, with Bakugo's outfit? You guys notice it, don't you? That the whole thing at the top, it's like Best Jeanist. It is. I fully think that Bakugo tailored his winter outfit to have that top part be like Best Jeanist where it covers up his face. Because Bakugo admires Best Jeanist as his mentor for the internships. And so I love that. That's a little note. They don't directly call it out. I'll go ahead and say it's not a spoiler, but they don't call it out in the manga at all. They don't make reference to it, but it's something that the fan base has kind of understood. It's like an unspoken rule. They're like, oh, Bakugo's outfit for winter is clearly Best Jeanist inspired. And I kind of love it. I love that too. So, everybody's got their winter outfits. I feel bad for Invisible Girl. Like, poor Invisible Girl, her winter outfit is boots and gloves, and she's like, man, it's cold out. I'm like, I'd be complaining if I had to walk around naked in the cold and everybody else is in coats. Like, granted, Momo just has a cape. That's her only additional thing. But I'd be like, dude, I'd get me something else. Can we, like, make invisible clothes? Is this possible? I hate that for her. I'm like, could she wear, like, reflective mirrors or something with, like, fur-lined mirrors? I don't know. I feel bad for her. I really do. But I love the premise of setting up these teams against each other because we really haven't had that. We didn't really have much of it in Season 3. Season 3 was more like one group was trying to scare the other group. It wasn't really a battle. And then the League of Villains came in and kind of ruined everything. So it didn't end up, nothing happened from it to begin with. But we really haven't had like a tournament style battle. I mean, we kind of had it at the end of Season 3, right before Bakugo and Deku fought when they were like trying to fight All Might. Maybe that was Season 3. It could have been Season 2. We haven't had a proper tournament since Season 2. It's been a good 3 seasons since we've had a proper combat style, and that was just one-on-one. So now we get to fight in teams to determine how are you going to handle this situation. Like we've had Class 1A fight each other in that sense. We did that a few seasons back, but we haven't had them face a proper opponent. Other than, well, I guess in Season 3 or Season 4 it would have been the entrance exams, or when Deku and Toga, when Toga disguised herself as Cammy. That's probably the last time we've had any type of tournament like that. But I like the idea of doing Class 1A versus Class 1B and then playing the heroes and the villains, because it's like you're entering a whole new dynamic and facing people you have no clue about. So I really like that. I think that's really cool. And the last time we did that with the whole facing the other university and Cammy and all that with Toga, it was just Class 1A. So now we're adding a whole nother section of UA to it. I really like that we're getting talk with Deku about the singularity point, and All Might's like, you're seeing more than I've ever seen. And I love Nana. Like, Nana Shimura, I love her, like, as one of the vestiges. And I am hopeful that we'll get more with her, because she's such a cool character, and I love that All Might looks up so much to her. And I loved All Might's, like, in the flashback, like, his suit, I don't know if he was still in high school at the time. I think he was, because I think we established when the first movie came out that he was like 18 when she died. So he was still in high school, and that was like his hero suit. I'm like, it looks so badass in All Might. It's a little darker. It doesn't look like quite as heroic. Like All Might's clearly inspired by his time in America because he has the red, white, and blue outfit. Very inspired by that. But this original outfit was a little darker, and I think that's kind of cool. It looks a little bit kind of like Deku's, except with a cape. So there's that. I don't know. But I really liked that. The introduction of Class 1B, and then getting at the very end to see Shinso's ability, to see him like use it in action. And Shinso, they really did him justice making him look good in this episode, because he's trying his hardest to wield this power. And he's desperate. Like you said, he's like, I am desperate. I want to get in the hero course. I'm not here to make friends. And I love that they pan out to Deku as soon as he says that. He's like, I'm not here to make friends. And Deku's like, but we're gonna become besties. it's like Deku's like, challenge accepted. We are gonna become friends. You will accept the Nakama, whether you like it or not. So I love that. I really do. And I'm excited to see these teams face each other and to see like how their dynamics play. I feel bad for Bakugo's team, because even though Bakugo has had this revelation with Deku that they can both, save people, helping by saving, saving by helping, that thing from season 3, even though they've had that, experience, I feel bad because Bakugo and Todoroki, they didn't really get to do much last season because they hadn't passed the entrance exam. It was a convenient way for Horikoshi to leave them out of the story with Overhaul, because I could see that their dynamics would have made things better or made things worse. So I'm glad that Horikoshi found a way to leave them out of the story. Like you guys are going to get your moments, just not right now. We have to have Deku and Eri have their moments. So Bakugo, is like biting at the bit to do something and to prove that he is worthy of being a hero after going through that entrance exam. And I think Todoroki's going to be kind of in the same vein, but not to the extent that Bakugo is. So I feel bad for Jiro and the others that have to deal with him, because Kaminari and Kirishima, his two besties, they're on a different team. Usually, so far from what we've seen, Kirishima gets along well with Bakugo. Like, they're clearly friends. And Kaminari kind of gets roped in, and Bakugo seems to tolerate Kaminari to a big extent. So when those three are together, like we saw in episode 1, they play off of each other very well. But Jiro just had this look on her face when she and Bakugo were on the team, like, I'm going to handle none of your shit. And so I'm really curious how that's going to go about. Like, what is Bakugo going to do? Bakugo is not typically a team player, so how's that going to work? I don't know, but I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in these next couple episodes, to see Shinso get to show off his powers, to see like what he's been learning, because we haven't seen him really. We've just seen little glimpses of him the last 2 seasons. Like, it's like Horikoshi was teasing us, like, oh, you're going to get some Shinso, just wait. And so I'm curious to see what we're going to find out with him and how that's going to go. So I'm pretty excited, guys. I have some stuff from the manga that I want to talk about in the spoiler corner, but otherwise, this was a good episode. Lots of stuff being set up. Monoma, oh my god, what a ham. And I love that Monoma went out of his way to do a survey. Like, I wonder how skewed that survey actually is, where he's like, by 2 votes, we managed to beat you all in the survey. And I was waiting for Kendo to be like, those 2 votes were you and me. Like, I was just waiting for it, because I honestly think Tetsu likes Kendo, and I think that they're the better pairing, but I know a lot of people ship like Monoma and Kendo. I don't. I think Monoma is like just friends with Kendo, and Kendo's like a way to shut him up. She's just like, stop. I definitely am Tetsu Kendo, but their dynamic's still really good. So I hope you all enjoyed this reaction. If you're going to stick around for spoilers, thank you. But otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you all again next week with more My Hero Academia. So, I'm really, really happy with the pacing that they are doing with this series so far in season 2. Because, as you guys, if you've watched my Haikyuu reactions, I got really worried at the start of Haikyuu because season 4, because the second core, at least, because it seemed like the pacing was all over the place. Like, one episode was like 6 chapters and just skipped a bunch of content, and it was just crazy. I was like, no. And I was getting really worried because as a manga reader, and I know this is kind of like, this is the double-edged sword of being a manga reader when you watch an anime adaptation, because you've read the manga, you have these expectations, and you look forward to certain moments being animated. And when it's not, it's disappointing, and you're like, and you can't, those are the moments where you want to be an anime only, because it's ignorance is bliss. You have no clue. And so what I like about My Hero Academia and its anime adaptation is that for the most part, the production company has done an expert job of adapting and not leaving things out. And I really appreciate that. It's kind of like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like, that adaptation, chef's kiss. It's so good. And I think that what helps is that Horikoshi packs so much into his chapters, typically. There are some chapters, Horikoshi, where it's a lot more action and less dialogue, but usually Horikoshi does a very good job of blending dialogue, exposition, and action happening. Like, his narrative is very tightly woven, and there's lots of things happening in a chapter, so that it feels, it's kind of like, it's not to the extent of One Piece. Oh my god, One Piece packs so much in a chapter that you're like 30 seconds has passed. But My Hero Academia does a good job with the narrative of having lots of things happening, so that when it's adapted into the anime, it doesn't feel like anything's rushed. It feels like it has time to flesh itself out. Because this episode, guys, was 2 chapters. And it was all of 2 chapters. Like, there was nothing left out. There was a few bits of dialogue that I wanted to point out that was missing, but there was no scenes left out. It was chapters 194 and 195. That's it. That's been the episode. I was been really happy with that. So looking through the episode here, it goes pretty much beat for beat. I've got a couple panels that I wanted to show you all, but it looks exactly like the manga. I absolutely love it. The one thing I did want to point out here was that when he's going back to Nana's explanation of One for All, and All Might says it's kind of occult, she's like, or romantic, I'd say. So even if I die one of these days, we can always meet again within One for All. It's romantic, right? And they don't say the words romantic in the translation, and so I'm wondering if that's a Crunchyroll translation issue, or if that's just the actual official doesn't use those exact wordings. But what Nana's saying is that, even if I die, which she does, you'll meet me again. The vestiges will live on through One for All, and we'll all meet again and be together. Isn't that romantic? And it's kind of like, it's like you're never alone. And that ties back to the first user's words. He's like, you are not alone. Like, we're all going to be with you. And so it's a nice foreshadowing to Deku getting the powers of the vestiges. It's like a subtle foreshadowing, being like, you're not alone. We're all here with you. You're going to get these other powers. If you hadn't picked up on it at that point. But it's also kind of like, if you don't believe anything happens in the afterlife, like, this is a counter to that, being like, no, we'll be together. If nothing else happens, we'll be together. So it's kind of romantic in that way, but it's also kind of scary, because then if you do believe in an afterlife, you're stuck in One for All and you can't move on to the next life. So it's kind of like, what you doing? But I love that panel of her where she's just like, the wind blowing in her hair, and I love that Deku's like, she's really pretty, like, kind of saying like, my mom's pretty. Were you saying that my mom was pretty? And All Might's like, yeah. And those people that ship Inko with All Might, I love it. I kind of do too. It's like, Inko's a single mom, let her and All Might be together. Why not? And I know some people ship Nana and All Might, and I'm like, no. I'm like, no. She is just All Might's teacher and like a mother figure to him. She is totally with Gran Torino. Don't even. Like, I talked in the Soapbox episode, Nana and Gran Torino, they are my ship. They are my ship. And we won't get to it this season, I don't think, but there's so much between them to come, and I'm just so excited for it. But yeah, Aizawa, him and Shinso. Shinso really is his protege, and Shinso having the Aizawa bandages, and I keep thinking back to Vigilantes, and I know if you've not read Vigilantes, you need to, because it's so good. But we get Aizawa's backstory in Vigilantes, and Aizawa deciding to become a teacher because he wants to help people and help them learn to become heroes. And I love this idea that Shinso, he sees a lot of himself in Shinso, And so he wants to make sure that Shinso's the best hero that he can be. And I'm going to tell y'all, when we get to the parts where he's like training Shinso with the bandages, I'm going to be like, it's going to be so fangirly because it's so sweet how much he cares about Shinso's character. It's wonderful. So again, going back to talking about Monoma and Bakugo being similar, I wanted to include this panel because Horikoshi in chapters 194, he makes Monoma and Bakugo the most feral things possible. Like, I absolutely love that when Deku's praising Bakugo and Bakugo's like eating the bubble. He's eating the word bubble. Like, I don't want to hear your praise. Like, he looks like Monoma there with his exaggerated mouth and everything. And you can see like the best genus influence, all of that. Those of you that have the dad for one theory, that think that All for One is Izuku's father, like I said in Soapbox, I don't believe he is. I believe they're related, but I don't think he's his father. But Deku goes into this whole geeky spiel about Bakugo's modifications and has the notebook out. And I love Ochako's like, where'd you get that notebook? And like has all the geeking out stuff. And it just reminded me of All for One, because All for One, when we had that preview back of the Vestiges, he was like, I've been searching for a quirk to give you, brother, and so I imagine that he was like doing his research, being like, I found these quirks, which one should I give my brother? I get such a similarity to Deku in All for One, because he does kind of geek out, and he does, like in season 3 when he was talking about the quirks and talking about what they can do and how he can modify them, like it was all very calculated and geeking out on what the quirks can do, and it reminded me of Deku so much. And in this episode, when Deku's like analyzing Bakugo's modifications and then getting the notebook out, I'm like, oh buddy, I see it. I see the similarities between you and All for One. Even if they're not related, I still see the similarities between Deku and All for One. And it's kind of, if you guys are at the point in the manga where I am, if you're like at chapters 306, 307, 308, you can kind of start to see there's a little bit of Deku using the Vestiges' powers to save people and to be the one to restore order. And as soon as that happened, I think it's in chapter 307, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, that's a very All for One thing to say, because All for One has all these quirks that he can use whenever he wants, and Deku's kind of getting in the same boat. And so it's like, Horikoshi, what we doing? And so, yeah, this was the first episode I've seen in a while of the series where I thought, oh yeah, Deku is kind of like All for One. Just a little bit, whether he likes it or not. Or whether he realizes it or not. And then of course, Monoma, just to contrast Bakugo's insanity, his chaos, the pose of Monoma with these multiple belts, with this suit and the vest and the tie, like, Monoma, you're so extra. And I love that the other Class 1B, half of them are just kind of looking over at him like, oh God. Like, excuse him. We have to deal with him every day. Just leave him alone. And I love the tumbleweed in the corner just rolling by. Oh, it's so good. It's so wonderful. But aside from that, I mean, the manga follows the episode pretty well. I love the focus that we're getting on Shinso, because Shinso's character's so good. Like, a character with a power that would be suited for a villain, and he wants to be a hero. And you can tell he definitely has the Aizawa vibes, like the bags under his eyes, like he doesn't sleep well, things like that. And he's like, I'm not here to make friends. And Deku's like, even in the manga, Deku's like, yes, we're going to be friends. I did like, in this shot, I don't think they showed it in the anime, so I wanted to bring it up. In this panel, we see all of the cast, and in the anime, they forgot to include it in the animation, because at first with Team 2, you just see Ayama, Momo, and Tokiyami, and I was like, why is there only 3 on that team? But in the manga, if you look at that panel, in the manga, Invisible Girl's hands are petting Tokiyami, are petting Dark Shadow. They're like petting Dark Shadow's head. It's so cute. And I don't think the anime had that. I think they forgot to put it in. And so I was like, oh, there's Invisible Girl. And so when I went back and reread the manga chapter, I was like, aha. Yeah, looking at these team breakups, like Kaminari and Kirishima, they're good friends, and Koda and Tsuyu are just nice enough that they're going to make a good team. Team 2 is good. Team 3 is interesting because Ida and Todoroki are used to working together when they were fighting Stain. And Shoji and Shinji are going to be interesting adding to it. But Bakugo's team, like with Jiro and Sato and oh gosh, and Seto. I think it's Seto's his name. The Tape Man. It's Bakugo's just gonna be like meh. And the people that they're facing on Class 1B, I know the one guy can do the welding. He does the welding thing because he was with Momo in season 3, but he's the only one I remember their abilities. I think the one girl's like a snake. And then, of course, Team 5, Mina and Mineta and Ochaku and Deku are like the sunniest people of Class 1A. Let's put them together. And, of course, it's against Monoma with Shinso. And they're all looking at Monoma in the panel. They're all looking at Monoma at the end like, oh, God, we got stuck with him. I love it. I love it. But the last panel I wanted to show you all is this one where Shinso in the manga, he's very polite. I think in the anime episode he comes across as like being very driven and ambitious and kind of desperate, but we don't fully get to see just how polite and nondescript he is, because in this panel here, Class 1A is like, yeah, we're going to do all this stuff. And he's like, thank you for having me. And then in Class 1B, Mono's like, I like you already. And he's like, thank you for having me. He has the exact same reaction. He's not partial either way. But yeah, so Deku's like, we're going to just forget about the vestiges for now. We're going to just leave that out for now until it comes up later. I don't think, basically, Chapter 195 ends exactly where the anime episode ends. I don't think we're getting Black Whip next episode. I don't think we are. I think they've got to do a few battles. I think by episode 5 we'll get Black Whip coming into the picture. And that's going to be interesting. So I'm so excited to see it animated. There's several moments of season 5 that I anticipate are going to be in this season. There are several moments I've been waiting for them to animate. Black Whip is one of them. And see, I have the theory that this first cour is all Class 1A, Class 1 versus Class 1B centered, and that's why it doesn't spoil us anything. And so I think that after Black Whip's going to be episode 5 or episode 6, and then the aftermath is going to be like 7 and 8, and then the aftermath is going to be 9, 10, and by the time we get to episode 12 or 13, we'll switch to the second cour. I don't know. But I'm really excited, guys. I'm loving the pacing that we're doing with this series so far. It has me so excited because there's so much to cover in season 5, and I cannot wait to see what they get to. I really can't. I'm like, okay. So, in any case, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction. Please feel free to comment down below. Please tag spoilers. But I'm excited, y'all. So, we shall see. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with more My Hero Academia. Bye.